Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Mel Moyer.
Hello.
Today, Mel and I will be looking back on the, 2003? Pixar film Finding Nemo. This is part of Mel and I's continuing Pixar look back. What am I? Flash? I don't even remember what I could. Retrospective series. Yeah. We have done probably about half of the Pixar movies so far, and today we'll be discussing Finding Nemo, everyone's favorite. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com or search for the Overly Animated Podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher and subscribe there. If you want to check out Mel and I's Pixar podcast, you can search for the Pixar tag on overlyanimated.com. Also, you can just Google Overly Animated Podcast plus the movie name, and it will come up if we've done it.
Yeah.
We're going to get it. Last one we did was Good Dinosaur. Today we're discussing a much better film. Of course, spoilers for this very old film and stuff, but let's get into it. So again, these are retrospectives, not reviews. So Mel, what's your history with Finding Nemo? Presumably you saw it some time close to it came out when you were younger.
So my first memory of Finding Nemo is I forget whether it was in theaters. I think it was with a DVD, and I'm gonna have to go through my old Pixar DVDs to figure out which one it was, because there was a teaser on one of the DVDs that had that song playing. I forget what the song was. It was some kind of like Castaway or something song.
Oh, like one of the annoying forced things before the DVD.
Yeah, and it was just like a shot of the ocean, and it just like was 10 seconds, and it said Finding Nemo, and I was like, huh. And I was like 8, so I was like, huh. I saw it in theaters. I don't have too many memories of like what I thought when I saw it the first time. I think the jellyfish scene stood out to me for some reason. But interestingly enough, it's something I've always like really liked. Like I love watching Finding Nemo, but I specifically disengaged with it. Like every time I watched it, like as soon as they found Nemo and they had to do that whole thing with the fish and they had to swim down in the net, for whatever reason, I found that to be the most boring thing in the world. Like, so after they got reunited with Nemo, I just literally like disengaged with the rest of the film. It was interesting.
I didn't even remember that scene happened. Like that's definitely not one of the
I actually
big
have when we get to that, I have a hero's journey.
Oh yeah.
Connection to make with that. But no, I've like always loved Finding Nemo. I think the characterization in it is a huge part of it, because I think it's very formulaic for Pixar. Although it does veer a little bit, because it kind of has like the A and B plot a little bit with them journeying to find Nemo and then what Nemo's doing while they're journeying. But it's always been like one of my favorites. And I still really liked it even now. So, and it's aged well.
That'll definitely be
a fine Pixar wine.
A fine Pixar wine. What have we covered that is not aged well? I think Toy Story. We both agree, but most people would disagree with that. Whatever. Here's my big. I mean, I don't remember when I first saw Finding Nemo. It was like, this is 2003. We were both pretty young. For me, my big thing looking back on Finding Nemo is like, I think this is maybe the most ubiquitous film of my childhood, and even beyond that. Like, I think maybe out of every film in existence up until like when I was growing up, I think this is the one that I saw most, was referenced most by people, was just like the imagery. Like this is the film that comes up in my mind when it's like, what did the substitute teacher put on when like that. It's like, it's always this film.
There was a funny American Dad joke about Finding Nemo.
Was it involved?
Klaus the fish. Like, if you've seen him, he's their fish, and he's like at the video store, and he's like, dude, are you Nemo? Bro, people are looking for you. And like, for whatever reason, like I lost it the first time I heard that.
That sounds
thought it was
right.
Funny.
Yeah, but stuff like that, references. Yeah, like I don't think it's currently like the most referenced film in like our generation. I feel like I've said before, that's Mean Girls, right? Like I think that's the most quoted film of people our age. But the big word for me with this film is ubiquitous. Like, this is the film of my childhood. Now, like, specifically, I would say, like, when I was younger, Monsters, Inc., the one before this, was, like, more of an influence on me when I was, like, 5 or something, right? But this is, like, This one's the one that was always there. It's just everywhere. It's like one of the biggest, like, I think for people our age, this is just one of the biggest, like, things. I don't even know. Do you have any sort of similar perceptions of this?
No, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's one of the more referenced Pixar films that people will trust like other people to get the reference. You know, it's not even necessarily the biggest or like the most memorable because I mean, you've got like newer ones like Wall-E and Ratatouille, but for whatever reason, like people make a lot of like pop culture references and jokes out of Finding Nemo.
I mean, it's just I took it for granted, but like obviously, just keep swimming, just constantly said
Yeah,
by
no,
people.
like
Like
it's
fish
like
are friends, not food, constantly said, right?
42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yeah,
Like
even
that's
that. Yeah,
the address that everybody knows in
yeah.
addition to their like home address, assuming you know your home address. But
I guess that's like the 8675309 of addresses, like,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah, and it's
yeah,
weird that it's like so quotable. And I mean that might even just be in like the fact that it is so quotable and a lot of those things do come from like Ellen's character stuff. So it might be like, you know, cross um like just the crossings of like two kind of like big pop culture things, but it also just might be the time in which it came out because before Finding Nemo, the only really big Pixar films were like Toy Story and Bugs Life. I don't think too much came out before it.
yeah. This was the fifth Pixar film. Yeah.
So
And Bugs Life wasn't super big, right? So
I fucking
Toy
love
Story 2.
Bugs Life.
Well, that's probably our next one. I just mean in terms of like grossing and like
Yeah.
exposure. I also am probably I haven't seen it in forever, but I'm probably a bigger fan than most people.
Yeah.
Okay, so rewatching Finding Nemo just now. Rewatching Pixar films, there's been like three categories. There's been like ones that I remember being incredible and were incredible, Ratatouille, Wall-E. There's ones that I remember that were like worse than I remember, Toy Story. And then there's ones that I remember being good but were even better when I saw it now. The big one was Incredibles. I remember it being good, but I was blown away this time. I wasn't quite as blown away by Finding Nemo this time, but it's a really good movie. I was surprised by the depth of narrative, and like emotional narrative characterization. I didn't remember uh, everything that was there. Some of it's super blatant, but it works. And even though it's kind of we've characterized Nemo in past podcasts as like a road trip series of just like cool events happening. And what's remarkable about Nemo and why it works is every event that happens is genuinely interesting. I do agree the like the swimming downwards at the end in the fishnet is one of the least memorable, but like I guess I didn't appreciate how much of a uh, narrative and characterization climax that was. I think it worked a lot better this time than I remember.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's more than the sum of its parts. Like the sum of its parts is already a good movie because every big thing they run into is already really interesting, and altogether it's just it's like emotionally complex, good enough. Obviously, it's not like the most complex narrative, but it's good enough, and the characterization I think is genuinely very good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just very impressed by it. I think this is like genuinely a very good movie, potentially even like great or it's one in the top tier of Pixar. I'd be willing to
It
consider it.
might have teared itself up for Dylan.
Yeah, I know. I'm willing to consider it for the top tier. Like it's been around
Interesting.
5 for me right now, which is like a tier below like the Wally Ratatouille tier.
This is one I think I've been trying to get you to do for a while too. I think we were talking about it on the Incredibles one
Yeah.
or something like that, where we were.
And I never thought this. I never was like, okay, this is a mediocre film. But I just remember it being good, not great. But I think it actually is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
Yeah, something. I mean, we'll get into like all aspects of it. The thing that struck me the most, and you're gonna love hearing this, is how incredible Ellen's performance
Yes,
is.
I was expecting that to be
Like,
your one negative.
I was like, okay, overhyped. Ellen DeGeneres' performance is great, but no, she's genuinely like incredible in this. Like, it's just so much side comments that are just hilarious. Like, all.
I am in my brief stint in high school as an actress. We had to do like scenes where we picked a character, but we had to improv as that character, and mine was Dory, and I like rocked it.
This is Mel's defining moment as a person, right? Yeah.
I like rocked it. It was great because it's like so like that's the thing is, and I think it lends itself to like Ellen's abilities, like in what she does. I don't even want to say it's acting or voice acting because it's literally just kind of Ellen being Ellen, and the way she kind of just has like a cadence with her speech, and the way like she takes lines or scripts or whatever you take it. Like,
I mean, I think that's a little bit like, I think it's slightly unfair. Like, I think she's definitely inhabiting this character too.
Oh no, for sure.
Sounds like
I'm not
her,
saying
but...
she's not like acting, because she is, but I think she has a very distinct way of approaching like comedic pieces. That just works so well, and it translated so well into voice acting. And that's, she's obviously her character is the center or focus of the next one. So
yeah, I'm much more excited for the sequel now. That I mean, I don't know if I'm excited, but like I was like, okay, this is gonna be bad, but having seen this movie again and how good Ellen is in it, then I think it's definitely, it's like, hey, there's no way it's bad. Like, it might not be great, and I think it probably won't be great, but how could it be bad with Ellen DeGeneres doing Dory, right? Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
You just, I don't know. Like, do you think? Dory, I guess Dory's like the standout character of the movie.
Well, she's like the breakout character.
Yeah. Which is somewhat remarkable because she's not connected to the like emotional center of like the bookends of the film. But what's great about it is like they make Dory part of the emotional center. Like they realize though how central of a character she is, and then like the central scene is them saving her at the end, right?
And and it's interesting too because the way it happens, like it's very like it's totally character based in that way, because she's not something that has to do with the main plot. Like she's someone that he runs into, and she doesn't provide anything from a functional sense. Like she actually like ends up being sort of the detractor of like a lot of the like headway they make in their like road trip narrative. And then you got that scene where she's like, no, like with you can't leave, with you I remember things, like with you it's easier, and it's like really like just completely like character based and character driven, and has very little to do with like what actually happens and more to do how characters react to what happens. So I think that's interesting, especially since I'm talking about fish.
Yeah, and that's actually a good topic, but yeah, I don't know if this somewhat related point. Scripts like Finding Nemo kind of like astound me, and it's in like nothing that happens in the movie is like super like groundbreaking, and like but like Andrew Stanton and fellow screenwriters like recognized that this character would have enough of an emotional impact to place her in the spotlight in the final scene. It's just like recognizing how your plot elements like are going to be received and how things should come together and stuff like that. I don't know. Like Finding Nemo seems so much more coherent and complete than it should be. It's and I wonder if it's like luck, if it's because of the direction and helping the script, and of course the animation, so it's a completely different process, right? And I'm sure there's maybe more or less changes, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I look at The Incredibles, I'm like, okay, incredible script, incredible film. This one I'm like, okay, like good script, but like it's kind of surprising that it ends up being this good of a film a little bit. Yeah. And it's not like the script was holding it back either. It's just that I don't know. It's like it doesn't stand out as remarkable,
No, and I think it also like has the benefit of where it is, because if this came out now, I don't think we'd praise some of the narrative aspects that high, because this is what Pixar has been basically doing over and over again. And before this, like it had like a couple of Toy Stories, A Bug's Life,
a couple of Toy Stories. Yeah,
I think the first two came out before this.
They did, yeah.
So there wasn't really much at that point to compare it against, or to say it's kind of being derivative of. At this point, like if it came out, like yes, there are still things in it that definitely, like the thing with Dory and the fact that it is a lot more character based in a lot of like those heavy like emotional moments, and the fact that it lets it have heavy emotional moments is something I still think is unique to the film no matter what. But I think a lot of the narrative elements, if it came out now, we'd say, well, it's just Pixar doing it over again, because since then I think Pixar has been remaking this kind of narrative just over and over. And
that's one of our big points we've had in many of the past podcasts, is that Pixar just has been trying to do Finding Nemo for several films now, and they're stuck on it, and it's really not healthy for them. they're stuck on this past success. It's kind of like an emotional person's success level.
They're a
but,
little stunted. They need to
like even like clearly their best film recently, Inside Out, is just them again trying to do Finding Nemo.
And that even too is closer to Finding Nemo than anything else because you've got the A and the B plot structure as well that Finding Nemo had.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. I think Inside Out might be their closest movie to Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
And like the reason, but like, and I hope they don't conclude that they should do it again, because the reasons Finding Nemo is successful isn't because it's like Finding Nemo. It's because it's like the uniqueness, the approach to this not often approach subject, the emotional high moments. It's not the road trip, the seeing everything, the A and the B plot. That's not why that like holds Inside Out back. That's not why it succeeds.
Yeah.
So and A Good Dinosaur is the worst version of them doing Finding. And of course Pixar's never going to make like a terrible film. Like I don't even think Cars 2 is terrible. I think it's like, I actually would classify Cars 2 as good. I think Good Dinosaur might be their worst film, but even Good Dinosaur is fine. Like if this premise is very safe.
Well, and it's like comparing like what would be like an average film amongst really, really great films is still a better film than
but
a lot of what's out there.
But I hope Good Dinosaur proves to them that even if you make a fine film, your standards are too much raised at this point. Movies in general are too good now. I genuinely think the average quality of movie is high. I think people would disagree, but like look at Good Dinosaur, only 300 million box office, their lowest in quite a while. So they need to react to that. And I don't know. We have a bunch of sequels, and who knows like when they're gonna have a chance. I guess. Yeah, so I don't know. There's some good point. Okay, let's talk about Finding Nemo. How like they approach. I don't know how much we have to say about this, but like how they approach like it's a movie about fish, right? And it's in the ocean.
It's interesting because at this point, like people expect this kind of thing from Pixar, where they're like, "What if toys had emotions? What if fish had emotions? What if emotions had emotions?" Like, it's become a thing now where and we talked about this a little bit, I think, in Toy Story, where we like kind of cracked open this like repetitive narrative arc that just reuses this trope of, well, what if we give a desk emotions? You know, like it's basically they taking these like really fairly interesting concepts, but then slapping them over this preconceived mold. But it's interesting because this is so early in kind of what we know as Pixar today. And it's like until now, like it hadn't really like registered with me that I'm dealing with like fish. Like this is like highly emotional film about fish. Like now I'm like, wow, that's strange. But it's like in all the years I've watched Finding Nemo, like that never occurred to me.
Like here's the thing: we're all about like, okay, Pixar just like personifies things, like just everything, right? But when's the last time they did a film other than Inside Out, which is middle ground? Like, I mean, I know it's emotions have emotions, but at the same time, that's like, I don't think that's the same type of concept as like Finding Nemo, because that was like half real life. It's clearly taking place in the real world, I guess, like Inside Out, kind of. Ish, yeah. But when's the last original film they have that is trying to do this concept? We had Good Dinosaur, which
I think might be Ratatouille.
Exactly. Yeah, it's WALL-E or Ratatouille. It's been a while. Like Up was humans, then we had a bunch of sequels. The Brave is humans. Inside Out maybe counts, maybe doesn't. Good Dinosaur doesn't really count. It's a subversion of that type of thing. But it really has been a while. They just like, I don't know. Like I don't think this concept is the problem. Like the personifying something. Like here's why Finding Nemo's like setting and just like the entire concept is so great. It's because they go all in immersion in just like, okay, we're doing fish in a sea. Like it's just, and they just do everything relating to that they can think of. And that's kind of like the whole premise of the film. It's like, okay, we're going to meet tons of like ocean landmarks. We meet sharks, we meet a whale. And it's just because they want to do everything from this concept of fish, like are just like kind of like people. And the ocean is like their setting. And they even have half the movie in like a fish tank, like to explore the other half of that too. That's kind of the thing. And, it's just remarkable how deep they go with it and how like charming it is. I mean, I think the biggest standout to me is like the mine seagulls. which is it's just like them doing everything involving it, taking it in some unique way. I mean, that's another thing that's referenced all the time, especially in like annoying kids in school, right? Just mind, right? Yeah, it's
they're outside the ride at Epcot. Those sequels.
Oh no.
They'll do that too.
Oh no, but that would be very annoying. But yeah,
it's highly annoying.
But yeah, I just think that I feel like this is a good way to go. I know I think that here's my thing. Like I know we're trying to do Finding Nemo again and again, and after Finding Nemo, we've done the personifying something that's not like human several times, inherent in the definition, several times since then. But I think that Finding Nemo coming out now, even though it's one of the pioneers of this type of thing at the time, even if it came out now, I still think it'd be a very good film. Like I don't think repeating it is the problem. I think they're just doing it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Well, it's like a copy of a copy of a copy. Like, it's like when you are making a key and you've got the original key and then you make a copy and then from the copy you make a copy and you make a copy and eventually the key stops working because you're 5 copies deep and it's not going to fit in the lock, which is an actual thing, by the way. Don't make a copy from a copy. But my point here is that, like, you're copying off of yourself, copying off yourself, copying off yourself. Eventually, it's going to get diluted to the most sort of like basic and shallow pieces of it, I feel like. And that's kind of what happened with The Good Dinosaur. It was just Pixar picking out what it knew about itself that worked across films, but doing it in such a diluted, shallow way that there was almost zero, if maybe even almost zero, like 0 to almost 0 emotional connection in that film. Like I didn't get anything from it. Finding Nemo, like I'm still in that scene when Marlin goes to leave Dory and she's like, no, don't leave. I can remember things better with you. And it's like, wow, like that's still really powerful. And, it's about fish. And it's over 10 years old, almost 15 years old. Like, it's trying to be derivative of yourself, and it just gets diluted with each iteration.
I think that trying to redo the Finding Nemo narrative is a bad idea because it already wasn't a high concept, interesting one to start with. I think there's, like we said, there's other reasons why Finding Nemo is good. Like I think that's not a good idea. But redoing the personification thing, I don't think that's been proven that that's the problem yet. Like I don't think that's the problem with Good Dinosaur.
I don't. I think their continued use of personifying different things is what's working for them, if nothing else.
I mean, they've proved that they can do non-personification movies, right? Like they've done several successful human movies at this point, Incredibles and Up. But Up is also kind of in this category in the second half, right? I'm
actually one of the people who's not a big fan of Up.
Ooh, we will discuss Up. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's I think that Finding Nemo. I just think it would hold up. Like I think it does hold up really well. Like you said, I think it would be good even if it was released now.
It's 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I mean, yeah.
What person?
Yeah, who's that one critic? Yeah, let's play that game. But let's discuss other stuff, and then we'll get back to this, comparing it to like recent stuff. And I think this is a relevant question too, because a sequel is coming out this year, right? So
in June.
Yeah, that's very soon.
It's shockingly soon.
They moved it up.
Been anything.
That's the thing. That worries me.
There hasn't been like any promo except for that one teaser.
Yeah.
And it's in like 4 months. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Let's talk. I don't know. What are we gonna talk? Let's talk the other emotional. I mean, we talked a lot about Dory, but Marlin and Nemo and the father-son dynamic. I think it's just played very well. I think the bookends at the end work really well. And
I think it's a unique father-son relationship, at least.
Why do you say that?
Well, because normally when you get something like this, like Marlin's very much like the idea is like completely protective, and he's kind of trying to play the role of both parents if you think about it in like a binary sense of like how like parents would be viewed at the time. Like he's trying to play both roles. And it's interesting because normally when you have father-son stories where a father-son relationship is like at the center of the emotional arc, more often than not, you get the sort of like, am I going to join the family business? Am I disappointing my dad? And the point here is that it's all about like familial protection and familial relations and the fact that they're the only two that like they're all that each other has. And the whole father-son dynamic doesn't play so much in that it's just like a parent-child dynamic, if that makes sense.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about this more and I'll understand. But like, so what I like about the dynamic is that it's like where we end up is kind of in a pretty healthy place. I mean, it's like the movie isn't encouraging this like overprotective or this forcing like a lot of father-son dynamics in movies are like forcing masculine gender roles onto the son.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what you're saying. Cool. I'm very much all about discussing how bad that is. Yeah, that's one of my big things. So, yeah, it's done in so most are like, even they can be done well and they're like still emotionally effective, but it's like all about like, let's teach you to you run the family business in some masculine thing. I mean, the recent thing that stands out to me is Creed I saw, which is like not an actual father son, but it's Rocky playing the father role to his dead friend's son, right? So it's and that's like that's like a super emotionally effective dynamic in that film, and that film's great. But at the same, but like what this does that's all about like toughening up and like, and to its credit, it does more than that too. But it's like learning box and masculine stuff, and this one's like letting Nemo like do things on his own, and just like, I don't know what else was established at the end. That was clearly the point of the.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the give and take, like to understand like protectiveness and like the fact that like, because I think it's like a very universal concept, whether like someone has lost someone or not, that parents it gets to a point in like development of a child or growing up that like they get, they feel like kind of under the yoke of a parent no matter what. So it's kind of like the give and take of the fact that a parent, you could be 4 years old or 40, but a parent's like always going to feel highly protective of their child, versus like understanding that your kids are people too, or fish too. And eventually kind of.
Are you saying that people are fish too?
Yes.
Okay.
That you kind of have to like give them, loosen the slack a little bit. And that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's interesting in that it's not like, because normally when you've got these things in Pixar films, it's always that like the parent where someone was like clearly in the wrong,
Yeah.
Like they always paint it in some way that either the parent or the child, somebody was like 90% at fault versus like 10%. Here, I feel like it's very much a meet in the middle ending, which may not always work like narratively or in film as sort of the dramatic ending, but I think here helped to make it very realistic.
And it's like not even that either of them are wrong. Like it's like, I don't know, it's like Nemo learning that Marlin being overprotective was like, it's like it's not that's not the reason he loves him. It's like him like figuring that out for himself, that his father really does love him. And it's not Marlin learning that being overprotective is like the way to go. It's like the key is like loving him, not like the forcing it upon him type thing, right? I don't know. I just think like neither of them seem right or wrong, and it's just like a coming together with them, and like this experience makes them closer. You okay?
Okay. Yeah, I kicked my desk has a part that slides out that has my keyboard on it.
Okay,
I tried to cross my legs and just popped into it. And like that's what I like, is that there's no clear right or wrong, and there doesn't need to be a clear right or wrong. It's literally just communication or miscommunication or misunderstanding between these two characters.
Let's talk gender roles in Finding Nemo. Why don't we do that? Because that's related to this. So, Finding Nemo, another male written, male directed, male main character Pixar film, right? But at the same time, what's interesting, I think, about Finding Nemo is that Marlin, Nemo, I don't think either of them are particularly super codified male.
Well, and that's what I'm saying too. Like even like he is more of like a non-gendered parent.
I think they do a good job making Nemo a kid, like a genderless kid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. And like Marlin is very much almost like a genderless parent. I mean,
like I'm just thinking about the film. When does Marlin being like a dad and not a mom?
No, it doesn't.
It never matters in the movie.
It never matters. Yeah. Like in a contemporary like or even traditional sense of the way like that has mattered. Like it never comes up. Like it comes up logistically because it's like, oh, I'm looking for my son, I'm his father, but that's it. It's never like there's never masculine roles attached to either of them.
Yeah, and I think there's moments early on when they have some stuff about that. Maybe when he's with his wife in the beginning, but
for like 2 hot seconds.
Like 2 hot seconds, yeah. Main character, mom, right? Yeah, but it's I don't know. This is just a very asexual aromantic film, except if you like the beginning, which is not even that really. It's like the dynamic with Dory too is just completely platonic,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of
And that's the thing,
surprising.
because I'm sure there are people on the internet
I
somewhere.
have actually not seen anyone shipping in this movie.
I don't want to, so I'm not gonna look. But and that's what I like about it too. Like and it never even comes up, like even a little bit. Like it's literally just Dory's this person that lives with them now, and I like that there's no need to like clearly define like what you would consider her in the family unit. Where it's like, is she like my sister? Is she like
they don't
mom?
they
Like she's
yeah. They do
she's
that
not,
and they don't get into new mom, which is good, right?
yeah, no, they could have easily fallen into.
I'm worried that the new movie will do that, but yeah.
Yeah, it takes place. What is it, like 6 months after the end of this? So.
And like, of course, they're fish, so it's like, oh, gender roles, but they're people, right? So they're people that are fish. But yeah, so I think it's easy to see Finding Nemo as kind of the ideal. As like, oh, okay, I wish all movies, like, I literally didn't care what gender the characters were. Like, what other movie can you think of where you look at this and say, like, even WALL-E is just clearly gendered robots?
Well, and we said that too about WALL-E and Ratatouille, like situations where gender didn't need to factor because these were rats and robots.
And this movie, it actually like doesn't factor in.
Yeah, it doesn't factor in because it didn't need to. And later we, get to WALL-E and Ratatouille and it does.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, we discussed those already, but I don't think it's particularly super negative in either one. But it's just there's some gendering and there's not much here. Like clearly, I don't know. It's but the but is that if we get to a point where we're not gendering things, but they're still mostly male, that's still a problem. But at the same time, I don't know what's.
Well, I mean, and it works in the sense that if you consider feminism and the idea of feminism, that you're trying to, it's all genders. It's not just female. It's the equality of all genders. So in that sense, I think it's helpful because it's taking away from these damaging gender stereotypes on both ends, because I think masculinity and traditional male stereotypes also hurt men as much as they hurt women and other genders.
For sure, yes.
So I think in that sense, like it really helps that. It doesn't help that, yes, the majority of the characters are like coded as being male in a certain way, but it's more neutral than it does harm.
I think that like I actually think this movie plays really well right now. I think that like feminism of 10 years ago, this wouldn't look super favorably upon Finding Nemo. Just like caring strictly about the female perspective. But like I think a lot of feminism now getting into intersectionality, I think this works really well. Feminism getting into gender roles type stuff and identity. And from that feminist perspective, I think that this is a fairly progressive film, kind of from that angle. Even if traditionally feminist, there's like one major female character. And I think it's seeing how our discussion on how like good it is that they're like the characters are not materializing their perceived genders proves kind of how feminism should be beyond that initial scope, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's what it is these genders are basically, it's how they're, it's in the movie it basically just comes across as pronouns. These characters use she and he, and that's the extent of their
that really is the
gendering.
Extent of it, yeah.
So, and I think like, obviously it comes from a time, 2003, obviously, we're still in a world where a lot of people are going to present things as binary, and that's unfortunate, but for what it is, like, I think it's, fairly awesome to look at it and say, okay, like it's not traditional masculine, feminine roles. It's not even really masculine, feminine roles at all. It's just fish that use pronouns.
Yeah. And obviously the next step would be not coding them as male, female in the first place. But given that you did, this is about as well as you can do it, right?
Yeah.
And that fulfills our expected talk about feminism and with Finding Nemo segment that I know many of you anticipated. So that is what we are expected to do. This is the only place.
So we had to talk about feminism in a movie about fish.
This is the only place on the internet you will find.
It actually turned out like a pretty good conclusion.
I would hope so. I mean, let me know if
no, and I've been seeing that too a little bit.
We're not let's say we're not the experts on this, right?
No, and so no, but not by far. No, of course.
So
not.
let us know.
I've been seeing you've been getting some pushback on your blog. I don't know about what, but it
you probably see very male dumb people not liking that I'm calling Ruby calling it out for sexist stuff. So that's probably it. But no, I do occasionally get pushback on some things because I talk about stuff, but I'm not the person.
My question for all that though is like, if someone wants to push back on something, before you're going to push back, ask yourself why.
Well,
like, why does it bother you to talk about the equality of?
Oh well, from that angle, yeah.
Yeah, like why is it bother?
I meant from like people saying like I'm no.
Like I understand. Yeah. That
there's like the progressive way of criticizing me.
I'm saying look at what you're being angry about and ask yourself.
No, they don't care about that. The angry male part people. Yeah.
If you're bothered by talk about equality amongst genders, amongst race, amongst sexuality, then question that.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm too cynical, but that's not going to stop them. So
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
maybe they'll get angrier.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Have we received pushback on the Pixar podcast?
No, I don't actually think we have. People have.
I mean, sometimes I get stuff and I don't publish it, right? So it does happen. I don't know. What have we not hit on yet? Like I don't know. We can talk about some of the specific stuff, like. What's like kind of everything.
We can talk about the fact that Nemo's got a bad fin.
Okay, so do we think that this? Okay, let's get into more progressive talk. Do we think that this movie is a good portrayal of disabilities?
I'd say
it's a little bit surface level in that it's like you can do it, like
and it kind of patronizes a little bit, I think, on Nemo and his disabilities, because it's like, oh, he's got a they say like things like oh, he's got a gimpy fin and stuff like that, which probably isn't the best language to be using even for a fish, because of what it
do fish get free passes on.
Well, my point here is because of the analog of what it is, like he's a disabled fish, which would then result in a disabled human person, since these are people as fish. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting the way it's played, because it's one of the key reasons why Marlin's so protective, is because he's very aware that Nemo has a disability, and he's constantly saying to like his teacher and stuff, he's like, like if he gets like tired swimming,
and the message in the end ends up being like, it's like you can do it even though you're disabled, right? But yeah. So from that angle, but I also think it doesn't do. I don't know. Again, I'm not the person to talk about this, but I think that I don't know. I think that if I was looking at it from that perspective, it would be different.
Well, it was interesting because one of the things we talked about in my children and culture class in college, it was one of our early discussions, if not the first discussion we had in class, because it was one of those classes where he's like, we're going to do things for the first 2-hour class. We discussed the idea of disabilities as being a social construct, because of the way society is kind of catered towards people who don't have disabilities.
X is a social construct. Oh, really?
Yes. Oh boy. Really? Well, because like the example he gave, it was like, sidewalks and the fact that, like they're raised off the ground and therefore like can be difficult for some people who have certain types of disabilities, but that's only because we made them that way.
Disabilities are purely relative.
Yeah, it's a completely relative.
It's the same thing with mental disorders. Concept. They're relative.
And I was going somewhere with this.
They're relative to the norm. That's why they're disabilities. They're different from norm.
Yeah, they're relative. Yeah, so like, and then like, it's interesting taking that into account, because the way they play it with fish, because I think there's certain characters that point out the fin situation, and some that don't even really, like, I don't think the teacher mentions it at all.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. The manta ray teacher.
Yeah, the manta ray teacher.
Manatee or manta ray?
Manta ray. Manatees are the giant sea.
They're fatter, right? Yeah.
They're no longer endangered, actually.
Yeah.
They just recently got
the Tumblr post being like, "This is the happiest thing I've seen all day." Yeah.
It's so cute. And I don't think the turtles talk about it a little bit either. So yeah, I mean, like they didn't. I don't think they touched it because I don't think they wanted to. I think it came up where they needed it to come up, and then they just kind of let it.
Well, I think you could view them like I just said. It's kind of like I said before that the end of the film is like you can do it despite that, which is a little bit of a message. But I also think from the other perspective, this movie is about Marlon learning that he doesn't need to coddle his disabled son. That is, it's fine, right? So I think from that perspective, it's okay too. Which is to say, I literally said the same thing twice in a different tone.
No, and I think it's like it's unproblematic. I think the portrayal for the most part, it's neutral to unproblematic.
I'm not competent enough in the subject to say that it's completely 100% unproblematic. I think that I'll leave that to others. But as far as I can tell, I feel like this is pretty innocuous.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Well, maybe it does come up more, and I don't.
This is the type of film that you like. I'm not. I don't know. I haven't seen too much from like the ableism side of Tumblr and stuff, but this is the type of film that you would be like people criticizing, and then you'll see a post saying this.
If this came out today,
then you'll see like someone reblog it saying, "Shame on you. This was really important to me growing up. That helped me like have a better mentality involving my disability."
That's gonna get pushed back. That right there.
Right, like that's like that. You'll see that type of exchange, and it's really complicated because it means something to one person, and the other person's trying to view it objectively, right? And I
just think people have a short fuse behind a keyboard.
Well,
I don't think it has much to do with the topic so much as it has to do with the way people.
I think that this is not related, but if you look at those types of posts, just eliminate the tone somehow. And I say that, of course, like having a blacklist on.
You are a master of eliminating tone. I can't do it at all.
I do coddle myself because I've blacklisted many of the I have Spread and Wildfire blacklisted on Tumblr because I just hate it too much. But like I have a lot like that. But like if you can try to eliminate the language from it, it is kind of these interesting back and forths about perspective, and I think it's interesting to try to take all of them into account and like that type of thing. I said that's a very hypothetical Tumblr chain, but that's the type of thing you'll see.
Well, and I also think it's hard. Like in this, it's obvious because obviously you've got this disabled main character, but I think for a lot of things, it's hard to predict what people are going to take from what. In these situations, like this one's a more obvious one, but I think like it's kind of a falling down the rabbit hole of Tumblr where, you know, someone's always going to have that about something, and then someone else is always going to go get offended about it at someone.
And if you just take away like take away the like offended part, people still are in the hypothetical post I gave, those are two interesting perspectives, right? So I think it's just these things aren't like super like linear in terms of problematic, not problematic. That different things mean different things to people. Also in my hypothetical Tumblr post, I think I use shame, and I think that's one of the words I have blacklisted too. So that's I wonder how many posts I missed just that like incidentally have these words, but like I've Spread blacklisted. Like
okay. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, so I don't know. Comments on any of this are welcome. I think it's interesting to talk about. I kind of want to getting towards the end of the podcast. Kind of want to briefly hit on the many things that they run into. I guess like the sea turtles, that kind of happens in the middle. Kind of a standout one, I think. The 150-year-old surfer sea turtle. I don't know. Like that played a little bit better than I remember. I think that was very good. Mm-hmm. We have like the School of Fish. That's a classic.
With Ratzenberg.
The Ratzenberger voiced fish. We have the jellyfish, of course. We have like the sharks. The I think the sharks are that's one of the standout ones for sure.
Someone else, one of the whales is Eric Bana is one of the whales.
One of the sharks?
Or one of the sharks, not one of the whales, One of the sharks?
I really like the sharks mocking dolphins. I don't know. That was just that's another thing I want to say. This I should have said this in the beginning. This film's genuinely funny, like several times. Like it's kind of consistently funny.
Escape is another big one. That's
not even funny, but if you quote like that's the type of thing you shouldn't like. It's funny to quote it because it's
one of those things that until the day I die, even though I know it's coming and I've seen it 20 times, it's laugh.
Not funny.
Escape. It's just the way she says it with such conviction.
Yeah, no, Ellen like lands a lot of these lines. Like seriously, it's
funny and spelled just the same way as escape. It's funny. It's really funny.
The just keep swimming part into the light on the. Seriously though, I think when they're writing this movie, they're like, "What's everything we can do with the ocean that we can do?" And then we put it in a line of things. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to unsee that now that I'm thinking about it.
There's krill.
Yeah,
in the mouth of the whale, literally belly of the whale.
Yeah. The whole speaking whale thing. Like, she's really good. Like that was really funny. And then at the end, it's like, was she really speaking whale, or did she just forget that she can speak whale? Yeah. Probably the latter, but who knows?
She's like, oh yeah, I speak well.
Once you start to think about that type of stuff, though, like Dory can read. Why can Dory read? Like, what is that?
Well, that comes up because Marlin's like, you can read, but like nobody ever like chases what that means or why she can read. She can kind of read.
Once we get into it, it's not going to make sense.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll talk about that in Finding Dory.
Do you want to talk about how white this movie is, even though they're only codified white, or what?
I'm interested.
I think I'm using codified wrong. I don't even know.
No, they are because they all. Well, I mean,
no, I mean like put onto them, right? Like what is?
Well, yeah, that's what it is.
Is that what that word means?
Yeah,
coded. Yeah, is codified the noun version of coded? I just said it is a noun version of a noun.
So coded is the adjective.
I don't care about the specific parts of speech.
Point is, you're saying the same thing. They are coded a certain way.
Okay, let's assume that what I'm saying is correct. Yeah, no, everyone in this movie is codified white.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed this. I don't know. I don't have too much to say about that.
And the humans that you see are white.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, where are we going to Australia, right? Like, that's the place we're going. That's the exotic place you're going to come up with is the white part, right?
Well, and that's the thing too. Is like you could try and get into sort of Aboriginal culture in Australia. But
oh yeah.
They've got blonde dentist man with his scary white niece and his white secretary.
Let's talk about his niece. Oh yeah, his secretary.
What was her name? Darla.
Darla, yeah.
I was close.
The one thing I really like is how they portray like her like super menacingly hitting the glass, and then they pan out to the outside, and it's just her lightly tapping it. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty.
She breaks a mirror too, I think, at one point when she turns and smiles. She only has like 3 lines. I don't think she says much.
But my perspective this time was that she's not really a menace. I think they just think she is.
No, she's just a child.
A child, yeah.
And plus, like, you're taking it from a fish's point of view. It's like torture. Oh God, like there's a child here.
When you were talking about like you were talking about something involving like fish and like, and I was imagining like what would fish Donald Trump look like in this movie? That's what I don't know. That's
you still have the hair. I know it, even though fish don't have hair.
I don't know why. It made sense in the context of our conversation about like political fish.
It'd probably be one of the mean sharks. I was going to say something else, but
You think he'd be a shark? I think that's giving him too much credit. He'd be the dumb shark he's the dumb shark that makes fun of dolphins. No, he's the one that makes fun of dolphins, the dumb one.
Oh my God, because he did do that in a speech and nobody talks about it.
Made fun of dolphins.
Not dolphins. He made fun of a disabled reporter. But
he's made fun of everyone, so
he's made fun of everyone, but specifically, like almost a perfect analog to making fun of dolphins.
Why are dolphins disabled? Is that what we're?
No, my point is though that he was like mocking another person the way that they mock the dolphins. It just so happens.
Yeah, I think that fish is that. Who's Bruce then?
Bruce. Wait a minute.
The Bruce is the big fish, the one.
Yeah, he's the big shark.
I don't know. He's also kind of Trumpy, right?
He is, because he's like.
But Trump would never try to reform himself that much.
Picks on the little guy. Yeah, he would never make friends with Dory. Yeah, they're like stupidly still friends with Dory. It's funny. Like as he's like attacking him, he's like, "I'm sorry."
No, the other ones are saying, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, they're like, "He's really not like this."
Yeah. And they're all
like pops in and out.
They're all Australian or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. British. I don't know. What are they?
Oh yeah, because there's that joke at one point where they're like, "Oh, he's probably American."
And it's like, oh, the movie takes place on Australia. Yeah, but the sea could be anywhere. I don't know.
It's funny because I think Americans are the only one who find novelty in anything like that. This is what I've noticed, that they're like, the movie takes place in Australia. They've got Australian accents. How funny is that? Nobody else like finds that funny the way we do. Because obviously we think of ourselves as the default and everyone else is. Although I suppose everyone thinks that way to a certain extent, but it's like hyper with America, where you think of yourself as the default because you constantly make fun of Canadian accents. Or like a boot, eh? And it's like, it's not like, it's a novelty, but everyone else is like, calm down. And I think that's one of the things in this movie because everyone's Australian.
Calm down. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
So it's like a fun novelty, but I don't think anywhere else in the world it's as much of a novelty as we think it is.
I guess.
It's also interesting that, well, I guess it's because they're farther out because they're on like the reef, but the sharks are Australian, but Marlin and Dory and nobody else is.
Yeah, it's just Albert Brooks there.
Yeah.
He does a very good job, by the way, in this. Albert Brooks. I think he's very good in this film. Is Nemo, is the kid who played Nemo coming back to actually play Nemo?
I don't think so because he's 21 years old.
He is 21.
But I can look.
I guess not because they put it on his wiki.
No, they've got a new person. Hayden Rollins is Nemo. It was Andrew Gold was the original Nemo.
Alexander Gold. Yeah.
Alexander. I knew it was something with a name. No, this is a new kid.
Okay, let's close it out by talking about Finding Dory a little bit. So coming out pretty soon.
Hank Keaton.
Let's read the cast.
Playing Dory's mother.
Ellen, Albert Brooks, Hayden Rollins, this is the new Nemo. Diane Keaton, Dory's mother. Eugene Levy, Doran's father. That's interesting casting.
Oh, a whale.
Ty Burrell as a Bailey, a beluga whale. Caitlin Olsen as Destiny, Dory's adopted sister, a whale shark.
Her name's Destiny.
Dory has an adopted. Okay, so they're going.
I wonder what that means.
Okay, so they're going. They're going somewhere with the Dory speaks whale plotline. She learned it from her adopted sister. Okay,
and Ty Burrell as a whale.
Ed O'Neill as Hank and ill-tempered Cyclops.
What?
Willem Dafoe is back as Gil.
No, an ill-tempered octopus.
Octopus. Okay.
Illiterate.
Yeah, no, I have some of this too. Vicki Lewis as Deb. Again, right?
Oh no, they were Deb and Flo. Yeah,
that's the Gil same. Was from the first one too. Yeah. Wait, is
Idris Elba?
Oh, Hank was okay. No, Idris Elba as someone. Dominic West, Michael Sheen, Bob Peterson as Mr. Ray. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's it.
So, what do you think of Dory's parents? Very worried they're going to go romantic with Dory and Marlin. Yeah.
No, I was considering that being something I was afraid of because it's taking place so close.
Taking place 6 months after Finding Nemo, Dory suddenly recalls her childhood memories, remembering something about the Jewel of Monterey, California. Accompanied by Nemo and Marlin, she sets out to find her family. She arrives at the Monterey Marine Life Institute where she meets Bailey, a white beluga whale, Destiny, a whale shark, and Hank the octopus, who becomes her guide.
So she was bred in captivity?
I guess. Bred in captivity, she says about fish.
Well, I think of it because that's what the sign said in Harry Potter when he met the snake. And it was like, oh, have you ever been to Burma? And he was like, he pointed to the sign and he was like, oh, bred in captivity.
Is this movie just going to turn into the beginning of Harry Potter where they they go to a zoo and this young British boy comes
she
and
speaks whale. It makes sense.
And then talks to Dory. And then Dory consciousness transfers into Hermione, and then Dory's now Hermione. Is that what's happening?
All right. I stopped listening to you.
I had a really good fanfic going. You were just not paying attention.
You always have one of those. I'm actually very because that's to the point where it would be kind of squicky with me. Like I don't want Dory and Marlin to have a romantic thing. That would be weird and gross. So I hope they don't. I hope they realize that a lot of people would find that really gross because I think they have such a platonic, asexual relationship. But
we'll see. Whatever. We'll see what they do with it.
We'll see on June 17th.
You're gonna be their midnight showing. They probably will have midnight showings for this.
No, they will for this. Well, they don't do midnight showings anymore. They do 7 p.m. showings.
They do, yeah.
But I will, no matter what, I will be doing that.
No matter where it will be.
I always liked when I was at Disney and Epcot at the aquarium is they had a blue tang and a clownfish together in a tank. So it was always everyone's goal to try and get a picture of them swimming near each other. It was rare.
Typical.
But it sometimes worked out.
The poster of this film is "Have you seen her?" and a picture of Dory and anemones or whatever.
Maybe she takes off.
That's their like save her, like free her, free her,
free her, Dory.
Free her. Have you seen her? Free her. That's what that means.
Oh, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, free her.
Free her.
Yeah. Why haven't we seen a Tumblr post with free her?
I don't think I've actually. This is the first time I've seen the poster, so I don't think it's what. The interesting that they're not doing any promo on this.
Free her.
I mean, Ellen's got her countdown that she's had going for like 2 years, but
how much money is this movie going to make? I'm not sure.
It's going to make the first one made over 900 million.
Yeah, I wonder how much people will be super excited for this one. Obviously, people like you.
No, they're going to be super excited because Ellen's like the main and like. Come on.
I mean, I know Ellen's like popular, but we're talking like everyone seeing this. So.
I'm glad that we can just refer to her as Ellen at this point in everyone's like pop culture lives. By the way,
unless you're.
I always love when you can refer to a celebrity by their first name and everyone just knows.
Yeah, I mean it's her, right?
Yeah, it's Ellen.
Not hosting the Oscars this year.
Well, no, it'll be exciting because there's going to be probably a lot of commentary on Oscar So White, so I'm excited.
It's going to be interesting. Okay.
I like that snap you sent me of the vanilla Kit Kat.
Wait, I forgot about that.
I took a screenshot of it. Dylan sent me a snap of a vanilla Kit Kat, and the caption was "Oscars be like."
Well, it's like no, it said like Kit Kat White.
Or it's white chocolate or something.
No,
like
it's
that.
like Kit Kat White. That's like the name of it. Yeah. Okay, and this was like right after that happened, so it's culturally relevant. Not that it's not now, but
it's always culturally relevant.
Okay. Yeah, that's I'm glad we chronicled my snap forever now, because it's a fleeting moment, but now it is a permanent one.
I have it. I took a screenshot. It's always been permanent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's not actually fleeting. Okay. We've successfully fillered to an hour, so we can conclude our. We don't have to.
There's not much problematic going on in this film. I think.
Where do you want to rank Finding Nemo?
You
don't have to literally rank it, but okay. I'm going to give you films. You tell me over or under. Okay.
Over. Okay.
WALL-E, over or under?
I'm going to say over.
Yeah, that's what I thought for you. Inside Out, over or under?
Probably over.
Over. Okay. What did you say was your favorite? I can't even remember.
I think The Incredibles was.
Yeah, probably under The Incredibles, right?
Yeah, it's under The Incredibles.
Yeah, for me, this was about fifth before. I'm willing to put it in the same tier as.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had it as my third. Oh
yeah, you did rank it.
It's in front of it, but it was my third.
So I can put this like in the lower part of my top tier with WALL-E, Ratatouille, and The Incredibles. Potentially Monsters Inc. Need to see it again. So not sure yet.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the few films I actually remember seeing in theaters, but I wasn't.
I mean, that was super.
I'm not big on it.
Okay, so let us know what you thought on any topic here, and do you wanna commit to Bug's Life as our next one whenever?
We can. I freaking love a Bug's Life.
Okay, we'll do a Bug's Life next whenever. The other ones we should do. We should do sooner. Toy Story 2 because we did Toy Story 1 and Monsters Inc. Those are the ones that are higher priorities.
All right.
Eventually we can do Cars and Cars 2, but that's not important.
I have actually never seen Cars, so it'll be interesting.
That will be interesting. Okay. I'm Dylan Hysen, that's Mel Moyer. All of our social media links and stuff you can find at overlyanimated.com. So subscribe to us, iTunes, YouTube, Overly Animated, I just said iTunes already, on your favorite podcatcher. That's my new thing that I'm saying. And Podcatcher, yeah, it's apparently.
So like a Pokemon thing?
It's like other iTunes type things. But yeah, it's a Pokemon type thing. Yeah. You can support us on patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, and Rachel, aka Hey Not Fever, Rich Canal University, Beatrice Exchange, Buzz Lightyear, Mailman, and Rachel Rose. Future, I don't know when I'm releasing this, so I don't know what's next. Like I actually have a queue of podcasts right now. Like we actually recorded a lot, so that's good. Yeah.
You and Delaney are on the recaps or what have you.
Yeah, we did our normal weekend too, and then you guys had one earlier, and then
today.
And then we did one, and then I might have me and Sam did one from before. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay. Last thoughts, Mel.
I really like Finding Nemo.
Cool. Yeah. Fairly high on this. That's good. We will see you guys next time, whenever, for this next Pixar one, and soon for general podcasts. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah.